Be glorified, be glorified in my life. Be glorified, be glorified. Say in my life, in my life. Be glorified, be glorified. Say in my life, in my life. Be glorified, be glorified. Say it again, say it again. Say in my life. Thank you. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. You're so worthy on this morning, God. You're so worthy of our worship and our praise, God. You've given us another opportunity to come into your house one more time. And God, for that we say thank you, God. We bless your name on today, God. God, we thank you for the shift that's in the atmosphere on this morning, God. We thank you for the great anointings, God, on this morning. And God, as I stand before you and your people, God, I humble myself to say yes to the call. I humble myself to give your people what you have given me on this morning. And God, I'm asking that I decrease and you increase, God. Make it nothing about me, but more about you. And God, I just thank you, I thank you, I thank you. Lord, I thank you, I thank you, I thank you. Everything that has breath need to praise God on this morning. Everything that has breath just need to give him praise, God. I'm not trying to stir you up, it should already be inside of you. Because God has been that good to us, God. Oh God, we just thank you. We praise your holy name. In Jesus' name I pray. You can have your seats. God, we thank you, we thank you, we thank you. Set your affections on things above, not on things on the earth. And then another scripture that I'm going to read to you is Romans 8:28. And we know that all things work together for good to them that love God, to them who are called according to his purpose. And on this morning, I just want to leave a thought in the message. The message is, set your mind on God's purpose. So much is going on around us. Who would have ever thought that in the year 2020 that we would be facing and going through a pandemic? A pandemic that would change the world, our daily routines of living, just that fast, just change that fast. Everybody snap your fingers, just that fast. People losing their jobs, children having to stop to go to school, businesses shutting down, and then they had to put a stay-at-home curfew. Who would have thought that this would have been happening in 2020? Now, I must say, if this would have happened back in 1991, and they told me I had to stay home, I probably would have bucked, because that was back in I was probably 17, 18 years old. Don't know if I would have stayed at home, but thank God I'm older and wiser now. No more shaking of the hands. That's how we greet one another. We shake each other's hands. No more hugging. Can't even hug one another. And now we've got to stand 6 feet apart from each other. Who would have ever thought in 2020, when we were bringing the New Year's in on December 31st, 2019, that 2020, here in June or beginning of this year, we would have been facing these type of obstacles. Wearing these face masks. Now, I don't know about you, but on my job, and even in here, sometimes you feel like you can't breathe in. Who would have ever thought we would have been doing this in 2020? People dying by the thousands, hospitals not having enough PPE supplies to treat people. We all have seen these things. Who would ever thought in 2020 that all these things would have been going on? And, Sister Costanza, who would have ever thought that there would be a need for 2-ply toilet paper? Never thought it. I thought it was a joke when they were saying, people, you better go out and get toilet paper. There's no more toilet paper. I go out and said, I got to see these shelves for myself, and sure enough, there was no toilet paper. I'm laughing and joking, and I go home, and there it is in my closet, stacks of toilet paper. And I asked Anthony, where did all this toilet paper come from? He said, girl, didn't you see? The supply's getting low, we got to stack up on toilet paper. Never would have thought that we would be looking for a simple piece of toilet paper. Something what we take for granted every single day. But even after all of that, all of those changes, who would have ever thought the day would come when we had to close the church doors? Who would have ever thought it? Coming to church, taking it for granted. Getting ready on a Sunday morning, Bible study, Sunday school, whatever. Who would have ever thought in 2020 that a time would come when we would have to close the church doors? But we must realize through it all, God is still in control. This pandemic wasn't something that started in China or Japan or wherever they want to say it started. This pandemic was already in God's plan to be released on this earth at this particular time. There is a purpose behind the pandemic. How many of you know and understand that God is still in control? Although we physically see the pandemic happening on the earth, there is a much deeper pandemic happening in the spiritual realm. We got to see both sides of it. That's why the scriptures say, keep your mind on things above and not things on the earth. Right. Let me just break it down real simple and plain. You see, God had to bust a move that would get the attention of the entire world. You see, back in January, I bet you a lot of you all didn't know that over in Eastern Africa, that they had a plague of locusts that's taken over. None of us really didn't even hear about that. Then there was, in the Philippines, there was a volcano that erupted. We didn't hear about that. In Turkey, there was an earthquake. Down in Florida, there was a swamp of bees that just happened like on last month, a couple of months ago. We didn't hear about none of that. And we didn't care about any of that. Why? Because it didn't affect us. And see, God had to do something that was going to get our attention and that was going to affect the entire world. See, there is a shift that is happening in the spiritual realm, and God is just basically trying to get our attention. He had to shake his people up, and you don't have to even be a member of the church, a part of the church, or involved in the church, or even saved. This is even for the sinner man. He's trying to shake the people up. He's trying to get people's attention. Now, one thing I'm about to say, it may not come across correct, and I may never be asked to stand here and speak again. But I have to give you what God told me to say. In the church, God had to shake us up because we have become too comfortable. We have become a little laid back, per se. We've come a little complacent. We've come like just a routine, moving like robots on an assembly line. I don't know if you all remember that Dunkin' Donut commercial that they made one time when it says, I got to get up and make the donuts. I got to get up and make the donuts. That's how God's people have been acting. I got to get up and go to church. There is no fire. There is no step in your pedal. It's just when I get there is when I get there. You're not trying to hurry up and get there on time. You're just taking and doing it your way. And God is saying, See, in this season, it's not all about the positions and the titles. And when I say this, elders, preachers, please don't take it the wrong way. It's more than just standing up here with this mic in your hand preaching the word. God has called us to do ministry. the director of creative drama. God has called me to do many, 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 many more things. And it's not about, everybody wants to be in leadership, but it's a difference between being in leadership and being effective in your leadership. If you're not effective in your leadership, you just might as well just have your seat. So don't get wrapped up on positions and titles. And like our bishop always said, he's always said when any new member joins the church, nobody has any more right than anybody else. With him, it's not so. Because he's the leader, he's the pastor. So once we untwine and get unwrapped about our titles and our positions, God can fully use us for his purpose. So he said, I had to close the doors. I had to get your attention because I need to get you back into my presence. You know, the first devotions, we're not doing our devotions. And you know what? I can't be standing up here telling you something. I had to minister to myself. So I'm not just preaching to the people. I've already preached this to myself. And in this season, God has exposed some things about me to myself. So I can't stand up here if it hasn't even already affected me and I haven't started making a change within myself, Elder. So God was just saying, I need to get you more back into my presence. I just want that intimate time with you. You know, you're coming in robots like Sunday by Sunday by Sunday, but you're coming in the same way and you're going out the same way. That's not the way it's supposed to be when you come into God's house. If you're coming to get something, you got to be coming to get it, and when you're leaving, you got to have it. You can't come in broken and leave out broken. There is a shift, a transition that's happening in the spiritual realm, and God is saying to God in prayer number 7 or anybody else, get ready. God just basically said, I just need you to myself. Because there are some things that I'm calling you all to do, and I'm going to need you to set your mind on my purpose. Jeremiah, this is a very familiar scripture. Jeremiah 1:15. Before I formed you, what did the word say? I knew you. Before you were born, I sanctified you. I ordained you. Man can't give you your calling. Too many people are looking for man to tell them what their calling is. You sing good, Coco. You're wonderful, Coco, when you're singing. I think you should do X, Y, and Z. God is not going to call any of us. No, man can't call us to do anything. God is always going to show us what he is calling us to do. It's going to come to you from God before man even approach you with the assignment. The same way I got the call. Yes, I got the call. But God had already called me because he'd already shown me in a dream that I was going to be standing here talking to you all. And it was just up to me to accept the call and say, yes, I will go. Everything that God does, he does it for a reason. And it's things that are symptomatic, that are lined up. When God called Samuel, we all know the story. And if you don't know the story, look it up. The life of Samuel was the very first play that I done here in this church. Bishop Brown done a Bible study on the life of Samuel. I turned it around and put it in a play for him. Matter of fact, my son even played Samuel in that play. He could probably come up here and tell you the story better than I could. But God called Samuel 3 times. Samuel didn't understand who was calling him. He thought it was Eli. So he ran in 3 times. He didn't understand it. Eli told him on the 3rd time, he said, go back and lay back down, because then Eli knew what was going on. And when he called you again, then you say, here I am, your servant. I am listening. God will not all the time God is going to speak to you. Debbie, wake up. I need you to go and do this for me, Debbie. He's not always going to use that deep, audible voice. He's got other ways of getting your attention. I was at home a couple of weeks ago. A lot of stuff has been happening to me the last few months or so. I was at home by myself, looking at TV downstairs, and I heard my mom call my name. Knew my mom was nowhere in that house. And I just sat up, and I looked down the hall anyways, and kicked on back down, put my feet back up. She called my name twice. I knew what it was. God is going to use a voice that's going to get your attention, and somebody that you're going to listen to. So I went on, and that's when the other dreams started coming. But to say that God and everything that God has done in the Bible, it's always been the purpose and the reasons, they all line up. If you take, our purpose is not for us. Our purpose is always for somebody else. Eli's purpose was for Samuel. Samuel's purpose was for Saul. Saul's purpose was for David. Moses' purpose was to lead the Jews out of Egypt and to lead them to the promised land. But it was Joshua's job to take them to the promised land. See, things always line up. My purpose of standing here is not for me, but it's going to be for somebody else. And then if you grasp onto what your purpose is, it's going to be for somebody else. There's a puzzle out here that God's trying to put together, and we all got to play our part in order for it to come together. You know, we've gotten to a point where the leg is trying to operate like the arm, and the toe is trying to operate like the finger, the ear is trying to operate like the knee, and the body's all crooked up, and it's not functioning as the body. God is trying to get us to come back together as the body so we can move forward and make some moves and do what it is He's called us to do. When God calls you, all He needs for you is just to answer. Now, I'll say this, and I'm almost done. When He calls you, and He starts moving and shifting things into place, not everybody's going to be in agreement with the way He moves you around and position you. You're going to have your haters. You're going to have your talkers, your doubters, the ones that will, when they see you being elevated, you have the ones that will try to pull your skeletons out your closet and try to remind you of your skeletons. But if you was to go to open up their door, they have the whole Williams Memorial Cemetery lined up in theirs. But they don't want to let that be known. They just want to tell you about what you, and you know, when that comes and that happens, all you got to say, well, I praise God, because I'm not where I used to be. Those bones are behind me, and I'm moving on to other territory. So you can go ahead and you can take that and you can take it to the bank, you can take it to the corner, you can tell anybody, because God is, I'm not even there anymore. So if you want to stay stuck on my mess, I'm moving on. Everybody's not going to be on your side. And guess what? That is all right. That is okay. Because if they're not on your side, guess what? They weren't meant to be in your life anyways. And what we need to start doing is start getting us some friends that we got in our circle, that when I got my friends are here today, and I'm not going to say nothing about them that they know I ain't already said about them. I got these friends that when Jamise, you're wrong, girlfriend, you're wrong. Jamise, when you're right, I'll support you. But even when you get down low and you need somebody to pull you up, I ain't gonna go tell X, Y, and Z. I'm gonna get down on my knees. I need people and friends in my circle that can get a prayer through on my behalf. When I'm down and out and I feel like I'm about to lose my mind, if you ain't gonna be for me, stay away from me. Because I am moving on to another level, to higher heights, and you can keep on talking. And He did say, I'll make your enemies be a step do it. So if you want to be an enemy, come on and I'll step in so you can elevate me on up. I appreciate the challenge. So all I'm trying to say on this morning is this. We all have been called. And we are going through these phases with the city and everything opening up. Phase 1, 2, 3, 4. But even in the church for the call, phase 1 is that it is the call. We have to listen for God calling us. Phase 2, we've got to answer to the call. We've got to answer the call. Phase 3, when you answer the call, God will start making the transformation in your life. You don't have to worry about, because see, there are dreamers in here and visions that God has given people in here. And they've sat back on it for years because they think, I'm not smart enough. How am I going to get this business started? How am I going to do this? How am I going to do that? God's already got the blueprints. The plan is already there. God is going to bring the resources. He's going to open up the doors for you. It's just up to us just to step on out. If we take 1 step, he'll take 2. If we take 3 steps, he's going to take 4. And even if we get to that point where I can't handle this mountain's in my way, he'll give you the strength to climb that mountain. So God's has already equipped us with what he wants us to do. But on phase 3, the transformation, and then phase 4 is to position. See, things are about to happen in the garden of prayer, and I'm getting ready to close. There's a shift happening in the atmosphere, within people that you've never heard from before. God's getting ready to pull them out. People that are been sitting in the back, he's getting ready to bring them forward. Things that you didn't even think that you could even do that was in you, God's getting ready to pull it out. Because still at the end of the day, there are souls out there beyond these 4 walls that's got to be captured. And see, when we start lining up with our purposes and bringing it all together, then God can start doing what he needs to do in the church and bringing the folks in here. See, he's going to start working and twisting things around. And it's God, what I'm learning is there's such a level in God that I never really realized. I thought I was just getting the surface, but now I'm really getting to the depth of what he really can do and what he's wanting to do. So he's called us all for something. And one thing he's not called any of us for is to be a judge. There's going to be some folks coming in this church with some t-shirts on, some blue jeans on, some Air Jordans on, some baseball caps on. There's going to be some people that they're going to be coming in any type of direction, but they're coming for us. And if we are not lined up in our purpose and our role, how are we going to effectively keep them in here? There is a work to do outside these 4 walls. And we have been sitting back long enough. It's time for us to get up, get to moving, get to pulling, get some soul winning, and do what God will have. The seats will be filled once we line up with God's purpose. But we've got to be ready as a church. We've got to be ready. We've got to accept the call. So in my closing, I will say, do not focus on what we see naturally. Don't go by the natural eye, but you keep your eyes on what's above. And when you keep your eyes on above, God will most definitely do the rest. And even in Hezekiah was another one. The prophet came to Hezekiah and said, you surely gonna die. You're sick, you're gonna die. Hezekiah, laying in his bed, turned to the wall and began to start praying to God. And he said, I was faithful. I've been doing the best that I can do. I've walked upright for you, God. I've done everything. Haven't been perfect, but you called me to do it, and I've done it. By the time Isaiah was out to the courtyard, he sent Isaiah back, and God told Isaiah to tell Hezekiah, you will not die, you shall live, and he added 15 more years to his life. So I'm here to tell you, when you line up with God and do what he's called you to do, you can't go wrong. He's going to make sure you have everything you possibly need. So set your mind on God's purpose and watch the change happen in the church and within yourselves. Bless you.